Hello and welcome, I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, and in today's video, I'm going to do something incredibly risky. I'm going to talk about a Magic card that came out over 2 weeks ago. 1 entire month ago, we got previews for these cards, they were spoiled, and Dominaria United came out on the 9th, which is, at time of recording, 2 weeks ago. 2 entire weeks. In that time, we've had previews for Warhammer Commander decks and Unfinished that are going on right now as I record this. So it might be viewing number suicide, shall we say, to talk about bloody Ramsays, but here we are. It's my fucking channel, I'll do what I want. I wanted to talk about Ramsays Assassin Lord, a card so new at time of writing that the scan downloaded for this video from Scryfall is still low resolution. That's how hot off the press it is. It's not even on Gatherer at time of recording, yet everyone has forgotten and moved on. What the is going on? I want to talk about Ramsays Lord of Assassins, which is actually his father's name, so call him Assassin Lord. I want to talk about him and the ethics of surrender, the tactical concession. When is it okay to concede, and are you being a little fucking bitch about it? This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, so if you want to get some sealed product or some singles, use the link in the description below or the code KENOBI at checkout to help support the show. This is Ramsays Assassin Lord. He's the reimagining or the descendant of Ramsay Overdark from Legends, who had a cool hat. If you remember this card coming out, firstly, how's your back? And secondly, you're probably an old cunt. Ramsays is part of a new collection of commanders. Box top is that reimagined old Legends, but furthermore, a whole bunch of them from the latest set, or sets should we say, they all look to give new design space in the future. They look to be Lords or Tribal Matters cards for certain tribes that haven't got any support so far. We had one for blue-black dragons, for example, and this is for assassins, because there aren't that many of them. Ramsays is a 4-mana human assassin with death touch, 4 power and 4 toughness. He gives other assassins you control +1/+1, the typical Lord buff. And most excitingly, whenever a player loses the game, if they're attacked by an assassin that you control, you win the game. It's an absolutely bananas, very exciting, very flashy ability, something I guess we haven't really seen before, in the sense that at a commander table it looks to, if one player has lost, crown you the victor, crown you the winner. So you can do things like swing at someone with a lowly assassin and then fucking kill them with an alternate win cost. Like duel to nothingness, for example. Or I guess the damage from a Vraska token if you're a boring fart. It's mission accomplished for you. It's your very own game of Hitman or Assassin's Creed, except you've killed your target and now you are the winner. Congratulations, you have won. Except you're playing a less predatory game than those, because there's more microtransactions in Magic. Fuck the word up there. There's more microtransactions in Magic. Am I right? You can keep that fuck up in, man, because it's part of the delivery of a stupid joke. It's thematic and it's flavorfully a great design in my opinion, but of course it does appear to be the kind of thing that would upset some players. Some casuals might lose their mind, and you get hated out of the game too soon. It generates a lot of salt. It's scary, it's threatening, it's provocative. It gets the people going. If you wanted to build Ramsays, there's like 74 different assassin-typed creatures in the game, and a handful of Vraskas that create assassin tokens too. But this isn't a deck tech. This is a YouTube video looking to explore the idea of tactical concessions and king-making, just springboarding off the back of Ramsays, whilst avoiding his really pointy hat. But if you really want to know what the best assassin in Magic is, it's Goblin Assassin. And it's not even fucking close. It's my playstyle of a game like Hitman, where sometimes you end up just like killing a shitload of people, like collateral damage, the bodies are mounting up and the target's getting away, but at least I'm having fun. So why are we talking about tactical concessions? What is a tactical concession? Here's an example. You have stolen someone's Lord of Extinction out of their bin, and you're about to go to combat and hit one of the players at the table, one of the other 3 for lethal. The player who owns Lord of Extinction scoops out of the game, and the Lord of Extinction stops to exist because it was a game piece owned by someone who has now left the game. They nope out and stop you from being able to pick the player that you're going to kill. It's a tactical concession to get an edge. Let's look at one more example that is kind of more common to me from where I used to play a lot of swords and equipment in Voltron commanders like Rafik. You got a Rafik of the many. He's carrying a batter skull, a sword of fire and ice, and a whole plate of warm churros. The churros aren't relevant to the example, I just want to make the edit more fun or difficult for Trigger. If the opponent I am hitting scoops for 4 damage, I don't gain the 20 life, I don't draw 2 cards, I don't ping 2 things for 2 from the Sword of Fire and Ice either. They screw me out of life gain, card draw, and damage shocks that I can fire at targets like utility creatures or blockers on another player's board. And it might seem big brain to mess up the gameplay of one of the players at the table, especially if they were taking you out of the game or putting you in a situation where you're basically dead. It's spiteful in many ways, and I think that's fucking shit. I do want to hear what people think in the comment section below. I want to hear whether people agree with me that this sort of thing is childish and should be rooted out of the game at all costs. I also want to know if cards like Ramsays that start these conversations are just not what you want to see in Commander. Let me know down below. I have definitely done this kind of thing, despite plays that either king makes someone or stop someone getting a huge amount of value out of my death or the on-hit combat damage or so on. I've definitely done it in the past. And I think I used to think it was clever. But as I've kind of grown up and, I don't know, stopped being such a wanker, I've realised that it's not, it seems immature to me. There are times for it where it's a bit playful, I think, where you scoop out to just, it's a bit of banter. At the end of the night, it's the third game of Commander you played for the evening, and doing it makes a funny little situation, and you do it, but then ultimately, what I would say is I'll begin to scoop and say, actually no, treat me like I'm here. I'll pack my stuff up ready to go, but don't let this mess up the game. Other players have spent time building their board states and building the situation up. For you to change the course of a game, the natural flow of a game through a concession towards the end of it, I think is pretty disrespectful of other people's time, if I'm honest. The thing is, Ramsays brings up all sorts of other considerations for this. Firstly, the dumbest possibility. Ramsays says if a player loses the game and you have attacked them with an assassin this turn, you win. So at some point, if you attack someone with an assassin and they lose the game that turn through an outside influence, for example, they are found cheating. Let's say someone catches them drawing extra cards in that turn. This is very unlikely, but it's still quite funny to think about. Someone is DQ'd at that point, all right? Or they get a game loss at that point for cheating at a CDH tournament, let's say. Or even in, I guess you could play this in Legacy. Ramsays can be played in Legacy, although it's text. Okay, fuck that. It's a CDH tournament. And someone gets disqualified for cheating or verbal harassment or something. You then win your pod. I don't think this is ever going to happen, but that is funny that that's how the rules work as written. Next up, it's templated to stop spite concessions, but it opens up more collusion. You don't need to deal any damage with the assassin. You have simply got to declare an attack against somebody. And if you then concede when the assassin is declared against you, you actually hand the Ramsays player the game. Because at that point, the trigger, the delayed trigger, shall we say, the condition for Ramsays to win the game has been met. The player who was attacked by the assassin has left and conceded and lost the game, therefore you win. Of course, you can concede prior to attacks being declared. So if you're on 2 life and they've got a 2/2 assassin, and they're about to swing it at you, and you are going to get killed by it, and thus they win the game. You can concede before going to attacks, but that is the same situation as conceding to stop lifelink, or conceding to stop a fire and ice trigger, or conceding to take a controlled permanent away from another player. It's still a spite concession that really doesn't sit well with me. And this is something I want to come out of this video with, is implore people who see this sort of thing happening in the wild to enact external rules from the current system of game rules to act like that player was still there. So make a token of that Lord of Extinction, or just pretend that player was there for the purposes of on-hit combat damage and triggers, and then let them out of the game. You can't hold someone hostage in a game of Magic, but you can inadvertently pretend they're there for these sort of purposes to stop concessions being a spiteful thing used to kingmake. But all of this adds a collusion element with Ramsays as well. You're in a pod of 4 players, and player A has got Ramsays, and they attack player B. And then player B knows that player C wins on the next turn. They just know it. They can see it happening. There's a trigger on board that they know is going to resolve, and they have no interaction for it. They could scoop out of the game and therefore trigger the Ramsays and king-make the Ramsays player. Again, another bit of king-making. And collude in many ways. It's not really collusion at a casual table, but it definitely is at a CDH tournament. And I hate that too. The obvious answer to all this is to have things like, for example, you can only concede at sorcery speed. Well, you can concede at instant speed and fuck off and leave. No one's holding you ransom in a game of Magic here. But for all intents and purposes, that interaction, that concession will only happen at sorcery speed in your main phase in your next turn. So you just treat the player as being there for all intents and purposes for that. I had no other extra word there. It sounded like I was going to have another word, but I didn't. Beyond that, I also implore people to act like the player is there if they are spite conceding as well. Resolve the triggers, like I said. Don't let people fucking kingmate with concessions. It's lame. As far as I understand it, that's how CDH tournaments work as well, with sorcery speed concessions only in main phases to stop some of this stuff. However, there can be concessions there and it's still spiteful. For example, if you have an Archfiend of Depravity and it's got a trigger to make you sack down to 2 creatures at the end of the turn, and that's going to trigger some life gain, some life loss, some card draw for a player at the table and win them the game. And you may not want that to happen. Let's say it's going to be pings of life loss, and if you concede before you get to your end step, it actually doesn't kill the table or whatever. It allows someone else an opportunity to win. You're in essence taken an action outside of the game to change the course of the game. And of course, concessions are within the game. Concessions cause other creatures and things to trigger. So they are actions within the game, but to me, the majority of the time, it feels like an outside influence. An action that shouldn't have to be considered in the grand scheme of working out whether you can win, lose, or whatever. There are cards like Ramsays that care about players losing the game. Ramsays is just the most overt one because it gives you a win. Cards like Blood Tyrant or Curse of Vengeance, they make concessions have an effect on the people's board states, have a direct effect on what happens in the outcome of the game, and it becomes more of an internal logistical issue for the game when someone does concede. For example, let's say player C is winning next turn, but player A is attacking them with a Blood Tyrant. Is scooping at sorcery speed in your turn to allow player A's Blood Tyrant to grow the 5 points of power to kill player C, is that okay? In my book, it isn't, because it's just more king-making. And ultimately, this is all just really a social issue. This is a community issue. This is a attitude and philosophy issue that hopefully we have moved on from. But I have seen spike concessions in the wild in the last year or so. I've seen it happen at a Command Fest where someone said, oh, I'm going to drop out then to stop X happening or Y happening. And I hate it. I think we should all let people win out their games with their toys and not be so spiteful and bitter. It's often to save face. It's often to be like, oh, I might not have won, but you can't either. And I kind of hate that shit. So that's it. Ramsay got me thinking. Ramsay's got me acting up about what's going on with concessions, tactical concessions, and king making. I might even do a video completely on king making at some point, because I kind of fucking hate that shit too. But either way, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think I'm full of shit? Do you reckon tactical concessions are actually funny and clever? Do you want to try and save face by explaining why you do them in the comment section below? Well, you do you, my friend. In the meantime, don't forget to be good to one another. Don't concede when someone's about to win off the back of hitting you with a creature and the effect of it. And I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now. Just fucking cut me off as I... No.